all the oxygen on Earth just disappeared, just for 10 seconds. And your first thought, if you're being honest, is probably something like, okay, I can hold my breath for 10 seconds. I do that every time I swim underwater. That thought is wrong, but not for the reason you think. Because the problem with oxygen disappearing isn't what happens to your lungs. Your lungs are fine for now. The problem is what oxygen has been quietly doing to everything else. The ground, the sky, the water, the metal in the buildings around you, without ever once asking for credit. And the moment it's gone, all of that reveals itself at the same time. Let's start with the air itself. Oxygen makes up 21% of our atmosphere, not the majority. Nitrogen holds that title at 78%, but 21% is still enormous when you're talking about the weight of an entire planetary atmosphere pressing down on everything. The moment oxygen vanishes, that 21% is just gone. Air pressure drops instantly, and when I say instantly, I mean faster than your nervous system can register it. The equivalent of being teleported from sea level to roughly 2,000 meters in altitude. Not over hours the way a plane ascends, but in the span of a single frame of reality. Your eardrums don't get a warning. They never do when pressure changes this fast. The pressure differential tears through your eustachian tubes, and both eardrums rupture simultaneously. Every person on Earth, all 8 billion of them, goes partially deaf at the exact same moment. The last sound most people hear before the ringing takes over is whatever was happening around them a fraction of a second earlier. A conversation, a song, a car passing, and then just a high, thin tone that doesn't stop. But while that's happening to you, something much larger is happening to the ground beneath your feet. Here's a fact that most people never learn because there's rarely a reason to. Oxygen is the single most abundant element in the Earth's crust. It makes up roughly 46% of the crust's mass, locked into the minerals and compounds and rocks that have been holding their structure for hundreds of millions of years. Concrete, the material that holds up every building, every bridge, every dam on the planet or more, is built on oxygen-containing compounds. Remove the oxygen from those bonds, and concrete doesn't crack the way it does in an earthquake. It turns to powder, not gradually. Right now, the Hoover Dam, the skyscraper you can see from your window, all of it begins to fail at second zero, simultaneously, everywhere on Earth. Now, while the ground is going, the sky is going too, just in a different way. Ozone, the thin layer sitting in the upper atmosphere that has been quietly blocking the majority of the sun's ultraviolet radiation. No oxygen means no ozone, and no ozone means nothing between you and a star 150 million kilometers away that has been trying to cook the surface of this planet for 4.6 billion years. If it's daytime where you are, you feel it almost immediately. Exposed skin starts burning in real time, the kind of burn that on a normal day would take an hour of unprotected sun exposure to produce, now happening in seconds. And the sky above you, which has always been blue, is draining of color. Without those molecules, light from the sun stops scattering and starts arriving like a beam. The sky goes dark, not night dark, it's still daytime, but a deep, unsettling shade that has no name, because no one who has ever been alive has seen it before. Now let's talk about something most people have never heard of. When two bare metal surfaces touch each other, there's an invisible barrier between them. A thin oxide layer, a coating of metal that has already reacted with oxygen in the air, sits on the surface of every piece of exposed metal you've ever touched. That layer is what keeps a steel rail from fusing to a steel wheel, what keeps the components inside an engine from bonding to each other, what keeps tools resting against each other in a drawer from becoming a single solid object. The layer is so thin and so ordinary that it never comes up in daily life, but it is always there, and it is made of oxygen. And the layer vanishes. And the moment it does, every piece of bare metal in contact with another piece of bare metal fuses, permanently, without heat, without force, without any process that has a name in everyday language, though engineers call it cold welding, and it is absolutely real. The Galileo spacecraft launched to Jupiter in 1989 had its high-gain antenna fail to open mid-mission because its metal components had cold welded together in the oxygen-free vacuum of space. At second zero on Earth, this happens inside every engine, every machine, every aircraft component, every piece of industrial equipment, everywhere, all at once. Every plane in the sky still flies. Aircraft can glide for quite a while without engine power, but no engine on Earth will ever start again, because the moving parts inside are now one solid piece of fused metal. And while all of this is happening to the solid world, the liquid world is doing something even stranger. Water is H2O, two hydrogen atoms bonded to one oxygen atom. Remove the oxygen from the equation, and water is no longer water. It's just free hydrogen gas, and hydrogen gas is the lightest element in existence, so light that Earth's gravity barely holds onto it, which is why there's almost no free hydrogen in our atmosphere to begin with. The surface of every ocean, every lake, every river on Earth begins to exhale, not evaporating the way water does on a hot day, unbinding. The hydrogen lifts off and begins climbing through the now thinning atmosphere, heading toward space and not coming back. In 10 seconds, this process barely starts, but it starts. And then, at second 10, the oxygen returns. All of it, all at once. Air pressure surges back up, hitting your already ruptured eardrums a second time. Fires that were snuffed out the instant oxygen disappeared. Every candle, every gas stove, every burning building, every industrial furnace reignite simultaneously. Not just reignite, any open fuel source that spent 10 seconds accumulating combustible gas now has a wave of oxygen rushing back in, and some of those ignite with enough force to be called explosions. The metal that fused stays fused. Oxygen doesn't undo a metallic bond. The hydrogen that rose from the oceans doesn't come back. It's in space, and 8 billion people are standing in a world that has been, in the span of 10 seconds, quietly, specifically, irreversibly broken. Deafened, burned if they were in sunlight, surrounded by failed machines and dusty rubble, and a sky that for just a moment was the wrong color. The thing about oxygen is that we treat it like background noise. It's free. It's invisible. It has always been there. It is the structural logic that the entire physical world was built on top of. And every single second of every single day, without a sound and without asking for anything in return, it just holds.